what is up? We are back with season 2 of the podcast, Spiritual Roundtable, with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And it's about to get turned up a couple notches this season. Buckle up. We're back to what we do best: devil's advocate, expansive thinking, highlighting triggers and laughter, and so much more. Join us as we embark on a journey of unlocking spiritual potential. As always, we promise to give you what you need and only sometimes what you want. Let's get going, B. If you're listening to this and it's Friday, that means it's story time. And we're back with part 2. We're going to mix together more questions with more personal stories, because it just really seems to help people feel connected, to learn, to feel seen and heard. And we just genuinely love sharing our experience and our journey. So we're just going to jump right into questions. Sound good, B?
Sounds good, B.
All right, hot seat. Here we go. What's one generational curse you're proud to have broken?
I can only pick one.
You can only pick one. The one that makes you the most proud, that you're like, yeah, fuck that, I broke that.
Not needing external validation. Not giving a shit what other people think. And teaching my
Because that runs so deep, though. Like, generationally, that runs so deep.
Yes. Because I was literally taught from a very young age that we only stand in our power, that we only speak up, we only make our presence known as long as we're not taking up too much space, as long as we're not making other people comfortable, as long as other people approve of what we're doing, the way we say it, and the way we're presenting ourselves. And I spent so much of my life living on other people's approval of any and everything that I did, that I realized how much I lost myself in that I would never want my kids or myself. But when I look at my kids now, I see from like their very young age where I was like, you just be whoever you are. You don't need a label. You don't need a this. You're just, you're just so-and-so. You're just so-and-so. Like, you don't need to be anything other than you. But you start bartering with who you are when you're asking for approval outside of yourself. When you need everybody and everything to confirm to you who you're not. Like, but that's it for me. It was, I needed other people's approval to confirm who I'm not. That would be what I'm most proud of breaking. And to so many people, I think that when you say you don't need external validation, so many people think of that as you being egotistical, that you being, high on yourself because you don't seek what so many people still chase. When really you stop seeking that external validation and you have cultivated a whole new level of peace you didn't even realize existed.
You want to know what's crazy to me?
What?
Completely side thing, but you brought it up, and it always makes me think about how growing up, so many people asked you what you wanted to be or what you wanted to do for a career when you were like 12.
5.
When you were like, well, I mean, like, seriously, though, because by the time you're like kindergarten, people are like, what do you want to be? Because, it's good to foster dreams. But when you get into like 12, 14, 16, and you're getting crunch time to high school, like, high school graduation, they now want you to have your whole life figured out. You need to know if you're going to college, if you're not, are you doing a trade? Are you getting schooling? Are you doing this?
Yeah.
What's going on over here? Are you working for somebody? Are you starting a business? Are you getting a career? You know how many people change their career path 2 or more times within their lifetime? And then you think about how the fact that a 12 or 14-year-old who, me in my almost 30s, I look at a 12-year-old now, a 13, 14-year-old now in high school, and I'm like, you're a baby, you know nothing, sit down.
Yes.
Like, and I remember being at that age being like, I'm like so mature, I got this. And it's like so wild that now that I'm almost 30, I'm like, why are people asking what you want to do for the other, 80 years of your life? Sit down. You
But
mean
like,
by the time I'm 14, I have to choose what I want to do for 80 years?
yes.
And I don't get to like, that's it. Like, that's how I have to make a living. My interests have to stay the same. Like, it's just wild to me. That's the amount of pressure we put on is so career driven nowadays. Like, I get it, but it's like, it's so career driven. Like,
But
it's just wild to me.
like, pause and think about like careers for a second. You can be good at something and not like it. You can be
Yeah.
good at something and not like it. I know I've told you this before, like privately, but I was good at my like grown-up job. I was real good at my grown-up job. I didn't like my grown-up job. And people couldn't wrap their head around why I walked away from what I did because I was so good. And when I say that, like, I could just innately go in there and do my thing. And I liked working with people, but I didn't like the industry. I didn't like what it stood for. I didn't like the principles behind it. And it's not where I wanted to build my foundation. But even when you like take it back to like high school and teenagers and this and that, I see that with one of my own, like with my middle kid. He's very, I need to have it all figured out. And I'm like, but you don't. And I'm like, you know how many times I thought I had it figured out, buddy? Only to realize, oh, that's not it. Only to realize, like, and not only that, it's okay to change your mind. I think that's something else that, like, with that whole external validation thing that you asked me about curses, it's okay to change your mind. It doesn't make you a hypocrite. You don't need others to validate why you changed your mind. It's called growth. It's called evolution. It's called shifting your lens. If you never change your mind and you just continue doing things because somebody else told you this is the way it has to be, and if you don't, then something's wrong with you. I mean, I think about that with myself. You need to go to college. You need to do this. You need to do that. What if I don't want to? What if I don't want to? Because I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but at the time I didn't want to. I eventually went back, but I didn't want to in the moment. But I was convinced that, like, well, this isn't what we do. Says who? Says who? Because I say this, however I say it now. Look at us now. Look at us right now. Nothing I went to, and I'm saying this, nothing I went to school for, nothing that I have background and foundation standing on really has anything to do with what I do now. Is it information? Is it knowledge? Is it factual things that serve a purpose? Sure. But what lights up my soul has nothing to do with that.
Well, and I think I learned at a younger age that you had two options. You either made a career out of something you loved, and my grandfather on my mom's side always used to say, like, you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like, that was his like go-to saying. Like, and that's great. But it's like, you either do that or you settle for something you don't prefer so that you can do what you do prefer in your off time. So let's be honest, less than 50% of your existence.
You mean a day, a couple hours a day, if that?
If you're lucky. If you're lucky. Yeah. And there's just something about that used to irk the ever-loving shit out of me. Like, even when you just think about it, I can't tell you how many people, because I went to school for animals. I went to school for equine. I went to school for, like, you know what I mean when I'm talking about college. Like, and that was one of my majors was science, was equine science. And I can't tell you how many people were just like mentioned, like, well, why don't you get a degree in something else, like accounting or marketing or this, because to pay the bills. And it was always like this undertone of like, please settle for something. And not my direct parents, but it was always somebody who was like giving that kind of like a helping hand, being like, maybe you should think about this, as if I hadn't thought about that for some reason. Like, that people just thought that eluded me. Like, you should settle for something you don't prefer so that you can create a false sense of stability in a wildly crazy market where you're going to be struggling to break out of middle class your whole life.
You mean they gave you the advice that they took? You mean they gave you the advice that they took because they can't wrap their head around how somebody would pick the, and I'm not calling it less stable, but you know what I'm saying? The less stable, the less predictable, the less safety net. They can't understand why a market or a niche, or you know what I mean, whatever, that is so specific. Well, where do you grow? What if it doesn't work out? What if? They live their life in a safety net of what ifs, and they
Yep.
can't figure out how you won't.
And it was always just so interesting to me, or how many people are inflexible just in general, like in the world, how many people are inflexible with change?
Yes.
Like, why are you not allowed to change your mind? I can't tell you how many kids, because I worked at a college after I graduated. Like I was working around college kids. I can't tell you how many kids who come in as freshmen or be sophomores and either think about college isn't for me. And I was one of the few people that worked, where I worked in the university, that was telling kids, so then don't go to
Yeah.
college. Go find the thing that you do, like go to trade school. You want to be an electrician? You don't need college for that. Like you want to be this? You don't need college for that. Go ahead.
You know what? I bet you were
Like,
the first person that told them that. I bet you were the first person that told them, like,
oh
it's so
yeah. And the university I worked for did not like that at all, because they were in the consumer business. And I can't tell you how many people in the university that I worked for told me that, oh well, we're a consumer. Like, we need, the customer's always right. We need to meld our, and it's like, get out of here with that. But it was like a shocking thing. And I'm like, but you're allowed to change your major. You're a sophomore and you realize you don't want to go for education, then please don't. Go for something that you would rather go for. Why would you spend $100,000 to have a degree in something that you don't care about? You learned after doing all the work that you actually don't want to have a job in it or a career in it, let alone make a living doing it. Why are we wasting a couple extra years in school? Go do what you'd rather do. Switch your major. Switch your area of focus. Don't go to college at all. College is not for you, and you figured it out in freshman year. Hats off. Hats off. I have friends who have finished their master's degree and were getting bullied into a doctorate, and they hate school and they don't like their line of work. And they're in their mid 30s, 40s, realizing that they want to do something completely different. And they're having to balance all the shit that they built on their old life and start something completely different. So it's like, please just do it. Like, I don't understand that I understand textbook, the resistance to change, but it's like sometimes when you look at it from the individual, it's like, if it's not working, it's not working. Please do something different. Why is it hard?
But do you notice, like, I'm just listening to everything you just said. Do you notice how when kids figure that out, and I say kids because when you're in college, you're still a kid. You are.
Yes. Yep.
Popular opinion, you still a kid. But you gaslight kids. Like, one, they're supposed to have it all figured out when most adults don't have it together. But you gaslight them. Not you particular, but you know what I'm saying. People in the
Yeah.
world, like kids, because they already know that something's not for them. They feel it. It resonates in their soul. This isn't right. Those same kids get into their 30s or their 40s, and the very people that came at them for knowing what they did at a younger age are now the people who applaud them for doing what they're doing, because, like, it takes courage to do that. Oh, so it was irrational, immature, and I don't know what I'm doing when I was 19. But when I'm 40, now all of a sudden you admire my courage. You admire my ability to walk away from things. You could never do that. So while you still thought you had the flex, the illusion of control, or you backed a child financially, whether it was in school or this or that, you felt that because you weren't capable of doing something, you needed to make them feel less than, only for you to eventually flip the script when they got older under your lens of, well, now you're old enough to make this decision.
And for parents, I think it definitely, like, just the parental figure in general, I feel like it does sometimes fall under the worry category. Like, when you get consumed with, well, what are they going to do if they don't go finish this? They don't go through with this. Like, what's going to happen? Like, and it turns into this almost fearing every worst case scenario that has the potential to happen, then always outwardly supporting and encouraging whatever shift they're making. You know what I mean? And I'm not coming for anybody. I'm just saying that sometimes people don't realize how they project their worries onto others when they really just don't know how to handle that type of an energy, that type of a change, that type of a shift where you might not be on the solidest of ground for a few months, you know? So it's just interesting. I don't know. You were just talking about it and it just popped right in my head. So I figured might as
No,
well.
I mean, like, I see that in my own experience right now. I see somebody in my I see two somebodies, one being myself, one being my oldest. Both kind of like we beat to our own drum, right? We do things against the grain. It's not always the societal way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
And grandparent has a lot to say to the younger of the two of us because that's not how we do things. But then we're over here applauding the adult because, like, oh my gosh, it takes so much to do, you know what I mean? To just wake up every day and live by the seat of your pants and blah blah blah, right?
By the seat of your pants. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like seriously. But
Yeah.
I had to disrupt that at one point, and I'm like, but is what he's doing hurting you? Like, does it affect you at all? And like, honest answer, she was like, no. And I'm like, then what are you doing? I go,
Yeah.
because you applaud me for doing the same thing that he's doing. And the
That's
only
just
difference
true.
with us is a number. It's a chronological age. Maybe he just figured it out before I did. Kudos.
Ever since I had this one video I did a while ago, and it's just made so much sense to me, is that everyone goes through the same things, we just do them in a different order. And just because you chose to do them in a different order doesn't mean the way you did it was any less right. So some people will start their career and do that first and then start a family. Some people start a family, then do their career. Some people will choose to work really hard and then relax early. Some people will relax early and then have to work really hard at the end. Like it's just interesting to me when there's just like sometimes you didn't do it wrong. You just did it in a different order. You know?
Yes. And that's the thing, but there you go. There's that external validation. Whose order? Who told you it had to be in this order? Who told you it had to be this way? And what were you chasing the whole time when you can do it in whatever order you want?
Yep.
Okay, your turn, hot seat.
Oh Jesus.
Okay. So, I think so many people that we sit with, that we work with, that we answer questions for, they always talk about overcoming fear, overcoming that doubt. How did you learn how to navigate through doubt? When doubt would push through, even when you were trusting in your intuition, even when you were trusting in what you couldn't see, even when you said you had that you were aligned with a higher level of trusting in things, right? How did you navigate when doubt would push through?
Um struggle busing the entire way. I think I was a perpetual struggle busser only because I was too smart for my own freaking good.
No, you
And I would rationalize things, and that seemed to be what would get me stuck, is that I have the ability to view things from multiple different lenses. I can sympathize with anybody. I could see their side. I can see their reasoning. I could understand why they would do what they would do. And sometimes that profound level of thinking would honestly get me off of faith and onto my own understanding of things. And to me that changed everything. So it really turned into not thinking. It turned into if anything caused me to overthink, then I must put it aside because that means that I'm relying more on myself than I am on spirit. And I think that was the turnaround for me. Now doubt creeps in a whole lot less than it used to, but I still think that everybody has a certain topic or a certain thing that they care about so much that doubt's inevitable. I think that there's always one topic that people are continuously tested on, so to speak, right? It really just means that they care so much about it that they don't want to be wrong. They don't want the letdown of what happens if it doesn't happen. And I think it's more emotional than it is really spiritual. Um, and it just goes back to control. To me, it just goes back to that same level of control. You want what you want, and you want someone to give you some
doing it right
fucking
now.
sign. Yeah,
Yes,
like you want someone to give you some fucking sign that whatever you want is happening. And
right.
then you want to sign for that sign because What if you misinterpreted it? Because you're so fucking smart. What if you misinterpreted it? What if you took it literal, they were being metaphorical? What
Well,
if it,
why?
what if that sign was a test? What if that sign was a test? What if that second sign and the first sign was a test? And now I need a third sign to make sure that I interpreted the first test right and the second one right. And then see what happens. You end up chasing.
Nowhere stopping along the way to go, well, I asked for another sign and they gave it. And now I'm like, oh,
No,
I need
because you
more.
know what? That's that you asked about fear and doubt, and that's really it. Because then you're not only doubting what you're seeing, what you're feeling, but then you get in the cycle of chasing doubt. Well, give me something undeniable. How many times has somebody asked for something undeniable? Give me, and then you all of a sudden start
Pause
almost
right there. But
dictating.
undeniable, right? But undeniable. Like how do you define undeniable? Is undeniable like you? But that's it. Like when I say this, okay, so like your humanness wants the undeniable. Your humanness wants to see something with your eyes, and then you get something and it freaks you out, like on some weird level that you don't even say, and then you're like, I can't just accept that. That wasn't undeniable enough. Give me something else, right? Like,
Yeah. And to
because
me,
they
anything that would,
of undeniable.
yeah, and to me, anything that would hit, as a sign too hard, if I didn't immediately just go, okay. If I didn't immediately just go, okay, got it loud and clear, and put it the fuck aside, what I would then do is like my nervous system and my energetic awareness would become hyperactive, like
Yeah.
hyperactive to where now everything is being pinged because I'm so energy based, like now everything's being pinned on like and pinged and I'm getting all this information and then I'm seeing all these signs and these synchronicities and all of a sudden now I'm just flooded with way more information
Than you ever
and
needed.
it's not filtering properly. It's too much information and some of the information is contradictory because my mind's playing with it. I'm holding on to it too much. Like it just goes from 2 to 10 and it's no bueno. Like, and I think sometimes the more information you have, the more you doubt. I
Pause.
think that that's just okay.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm just gonna ask you my second question because you've already bridged into it with a couple things that you said, so I just don't want to like have to circle back like this way to the runway. Um, when I say how do you disconnect from the outside noise, I really want to say it more in the sense of we have told people so many times like you are not your thoughts, your mind, your brain, it's a receiver, right? How do you discern or disconnect from all that outside noise in the sense of all the things that you pick up on like you just described? Because
I
like
will
you
tell
just I
you
think
when
so many people have that happen, this
when
side and this side and this side and this side, and then they're overthinking all of it.
I will tell you when I was younger, the noise was real. Um, I used to get bombarded and sometimes it would just I feel like someone's gonna understand. I'm getting goosebumps now. I feel like someone's gonna understand this, but sometimes I would receive energetic noise that sounded like nothing, but felt like noise in the headspace. And some people might call it chaos, but really it's just a lot of energy wanting your attention because I've always been a medium. I just haven't been very good at controlling it or knowing what was happening, especially when I was younger. So I would get I was never a weirdo who like couldn't go into like stores or shit like that or anything like that, but I just think it was one of those things where it was like I would have days where I wasn't allowed to sleep. Like, spirit would keep me up at night, and I felt like I was tossing and turning, and I could never sleep, and then things were moving and shifting in the room and all this stuff, and everything just felt really loud even though nothing was being screamed in my ears. So it was very difficult. So for me, when I was younger, I was a headphone person. Like, and anytime we went somewhere, I learned that certain things would make it worse. I am a lover of car rides. I will drive
Me too.
anywhere. I will do a 10-hour drive to hit the East Coast. I will, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind driving. I love being a passenger in a car. My mother used to tell me that car rides used to put me to sleep as a baby. So she would take couple laps around the neighborhood if I woke up in the middle of the night. Like, car rides were just always something very relaxing. But sometimes I would have a lot of information flooding through. on car rides when I was younger. Car accidents, weird visuals, or weird trains of thoughts, and it would just become overwhelming energetically. And I didn't really have a word for it at the time, but now I know it to be energetically overwhelming. And I used to just deafen out the world with earphones, music on 24/7, loud as fuck. Like my parents were like, "Isn't that gonna hurt your ears? You're gonna damage your hearing. Turn it down." I would do that, and sometimes I would pull like 2 or 3 all-nighters in a row, doing nothing, but all my lights would be on in my room, like overstimulating yourself into like falling asleep, like watching TV, music playing, lights on, this, that, and the other, until you became so fucking exhausted that you fell asleep. That was my first way of putting it down, drowning it out, separating, was really just overstimulating yourself so much till you hit a roadblock and you have to pass out. I did that very heavy in my teenage years and in my early 20s because I wasn't given any other tool. And I never really talked about it. So, like, I feel like that makes it sound like, like my parents were bad parents. They weren't. I never talked about any of it. Like, I just looked like a normal kid with headphones on. I wasn't like, by the way, I have 7 things going on and my eyes hurt. Like, no. So it was like one of those weird things. Like, I just hid that for whatever reason. And, but I think now that I work with my abilities more, um, for me, separating, it really became an acceptance thing or a fighting with thing. So when I'm overthinking something, I'm not accepting what I'm given. I'm either rationalizing it, begging for a different sign, or something weird. So to me, it was that radical acceptance of okay, even if you don't understand it. And I need to preface this. I'm a big brain. I'm an overthinker. I'm a super fucking smart person. So the whys irk the fuck out of me. I want to know why. Like, if you are bothering, this is the way I think about it. If you're bothering my day, I want to know why. Like, I demand to know why. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was always how I functioned. Like, okay, but tell me more, but tell me more, but tell me more. And then what ends up happening is you end up getting so disconnected from the physical reality, not even that, from like the present moment, that you end
Yes.
up chasing your guides or spirit or whatever for an answer. And chances are you don't even trust the answer to begin with because you didn't trust the first breadcrumb they gave you. And then you ask them for 10 more. Are you going to trust all 10? No, because then what are you going to ask for? You're going to ask for a physical sign because maybe you're just crazy and all 10 signs are bullshit. Like, it's just like, it's like a whole massive thing. So for me, the disconnect really became trust. And I had to allow them the space to prove to me and my humanness that they can be trusted. But if you never give them the space to do that, they can't do it for you. So for me, it was kind of where I just got to the end of my rope where I was like, I feel like I'm just running in circles. I feel like I'm getting frustrated. I feel like I'm getting confused. I feel like I'm doubting more. The more that I'm trying to do away with my doubt, I found myself doubting more. So the more I was like, let me try to make this make sense. Let me try to throw cards. Let me try to meditate about it. Let me write it down. Let me journal. Let me automatic write. I was causing myself more doubt because I just didn't trust it. I wanted more information so my humanness could feel good about trusting it. That's not trust.
No.
That's like factually proven. That's not trust. Like, that's not trust at all. So I actually kind of went back into more of just that radical acceptance of being like, okay, you gave me this, got it. And leaving it alone.
Okay, now
Like,
you're gonna hate me. Now we're just gonna give you your last question. If you can't stop bridging into my questions, I just cannot take turns today. But like because my next question, I'm sorry, like here we go again. But like you just said that's not trusting. It's not trusting. Right? It's chasing, it's seeking, it's searching for proof. It's searching for physical, tangible proof. So like my next question for you was, what did it look like when you, and I mean finally stepped into listening to your intuition? Not listening to your big brain and your logical mind and the need to get an answer to the why.
it
What
felt
did it look
quiet.
like?
It felt quiet. Um, it felt so quiet. Like, I remember the first time I said okay and actually meant it and like was okay. I don't need more information. In fact, don't give me more information. I trust you. If you say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I don't even care when. I don't want the details. I'm good waiting. Like, I just got to the point where I think I had honestly just given up. Like, I think it was a part to surrender. Um, where I was just like, fuck all of this. Like, I was like, I'm done. So you want to tell me something? Great. And it was dead silence. Like, and I remember being like, I think I talked to you about it. I remember being like, I think I've been turned off. Like, because I always view my abilities as a switch, of like, because I have downtime to where, I'm not to be bothered. And then they have like on time when I'm working with people and I take clients, and during the day where they can bother me as much as they want. So for me, I was just like, I feel like it's too quiet. I feel like everyone's just taking like a vacation or something. I'm not being bothered. I'm not getting any weird visuals, no weird song lyrics. I'm not getting anything. And it was radical acceptance.
Yes.
I understood the assignment. Therefore, I did not need to be continued to be bombarded with a bunch of shit. But it really went back to the Bible for me. I don't know why, but for me, there was one, I did a video on it a while ago, but there was one phrase or,
Oh, I
what do
remember
you
that.
call it, in the Bible that it just changed everything for me. It was, my thoughts are not your thoughts,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's like that set of stanzas, for my thoughts are bigger than your thoughts and they will be above you. And it's like that whole big thing, but it's pretty much just it has a deeper meaning for me, and I can't always put it into words, but that just hits at a soul level for me when you're like, I can't understand it. Of course not, because our human brains are limited, and our soul has no limit, and God has no limit, and spirit has no limit, and all of these things, the universe is limitless. And like, so it's like one of those things to be like, I'm not surprised you can't understand it from your humanness. It's not meant to be. Like, that spirit will always be greater. They will always have a greater perspective, greater plan, greater this. And then the other part to that was, I came across another thing in the Bible that just hit me different, and it was talking about sin. And I don't look at sin the way I used to when I was like a practicing Catholic, so to speak, to where it was like this huge negative thing. I have a different relationship with the idea of sin. But in the Bible context, it was talking about sin and kind of like the turning away from things. And they were talking about how the wicked culture will seek a sign from God on repeat, and how it'll be like that constant digging for him to prove himself. And it was like that they will seek revelation and signs and wonders and all of these like crazy things. And I literally just remember sitting there being like, damn, that's wild. That's wild. Because when you think about it, when you just think about it, right? Like let's just take religion out of it, throw it out, right? Let's just say this bigger, grander thing is doing you a favor. That's the way I think about it. Because, like, I'm sorry, like, in my mind, he don't really need nothing from us. Like, God don't need nothing from us. Limitless, all powerful, like omnipresent. Like, I die in about 80 years. Like, what can I do for you? Like, So it's always been the other way relationship of being like, we're get these blessings and this abundance and these gifts from God and all these things, and through his mercy and like whatever. So for me, it was always kind of fucked to be like, so he gives you something and you're like, I need 3 more things right now because I don't believe the first thing you just gave me. It's wild when you think about it like that. Like, I just remember that was like a turning point for me. It was just like, oh. And then I started finding peace in the solace of it being quiet. And it kind of unwrote the whole, I'm gonna call it toxic spirituality because I don't have another word for it. Maybe mainstream, modern spirituality, to where everything needs to be so loud and spirit needs to be slapping you in the face. And if you can walk in public and not feel everybody in the room, then you're not as spiritual as you thought, or you're not as in tune or open as you thought. And it's always this weird ass ego trip that they seem to push, that if you can function in normal society, then you're not that special, then you're not chosen, then you don't have intuitive abilities, and you're NPC, or you're normal, and this, and you're just not as special, and you're missing the mark. And it was fucking weird to me. I literally was like, so we want people who are crippled by anxiety, can't go into the store, can't control nor command their own energy, have zero grounding or protection skills, and can't function. Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. We opened up a Get 5, Give 5 program, and it's all for referring friends and family. We know you guys do it. We want to say thank you because we are always seeing you send your trusted people our way. So visit the website and figure out how you can not only get $5 for doing it, but give $5 to your bestie. Visit www.childofbalance.com. There's no end date. So if you want a one-stop shop for private spaces, spiritual guidance and assistance, mediumship, mentorship, private readings, shadow work assistance, it's all there. If you are looking for a free tree of knowledge where you can learn esoteric wisdoms, breath work, you can learn about yourself, cultures, spiritual hygiene, spiritual practices, spiritual traditions, and you can just learn about almost anything under the sun spiritual for 100% free, check out the website. And you should become a member. If you're not already a member, www.childofbalance.com. It's 100% free. It'll never cost you money. We would never charge you money. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
But let's pause. How many times do people make the parallel between, certain things in religion, certain things in spirituality, people twist, whether it's esoteric knowledge or the Bible, and they twist things to suit their construct, their whatever, right? Because it's, you're either protected or you're not. You're either don't fear anything because like God's got your back or spirit's got your back. You can interchange those words however you want, right? But like if you take it from a religious aspect, how many times in the Bible does it tell people to not fear, to don't be anxious, to all this stuff? And then they're over here like, oh my God, Armageddon.
But that's what I'm saying. It was just too much contradictions for me. And there's just because I'm very energy based, dude. So it's just something that there was some part of surrender that happened to where I had to give up. Like I had to give up control. I had to give up my timeline for things.
But you just nailed it. You have to give up control. See, people, that's it. You can't surrender and still, quote unquote, be in control. Because the thing is, it's your nervous system that wants to be in control. And the thing is, your nervous system does not care how much you've healed. Ever. It doesn't care. Because your nervous system is going to seek out what it knows, what it can predict, what is familiar. It doesn't care what you try to convince it of. It cares what you show it.
Yeah, and it was just kind of that beginning step of doing that. And the second was literally just accepting everything that came in. And instead of battling it, instead of saying, well, that doesn't make sense, again, my thoughts are not your thoughts. So I'm like, okay, because maybe it's not supposed to make sense right now. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm supposed to get the sense as I live the sense. Maybe I'm supposed to have an experience that now everything makes sense. Maybe maybe I only have a piece of the message or a piece of the puzzle and I bump into somebody and they say something and I'm like, that's so funny. And maybe that's how it works out. Or maybe it's off chance and I had to hold it in my pocket for 12 years. I don't know.
But how many times, and this I'll just say tried and true in my experience, how many times, because I'm going to tell you it's always over here. It's always in this camp. Are you given something that makes no sense in the moment? None. And your human brain wants to go, but why? I need an answer right now. Only for a version of you that you will step into later, it will make perfect sense.
Well, see, and that's what it is for me is like, I didn't have a spiritual problem. I didn't have a soul problem. I had a humanness issue. Like, and that's really where it sits for me, is like, I have always been very deep. I've always been very connected with God or spirit or the universe, whatever you want to call it, before somebody labeled it something. I've
Correct.
always been very connected to energy, to nature, to all of these things, and things matter to me more than just morally how they've been taught. Things matter. Um, so I never had a spiritual problem. I never had a spiritual problem. I had a humanist problem. I had a me as a human in the physical needing to get that under control, that want to know more, that I need all the answers before I feel safe to trust something. That's a me problem. That's not a spirit problem. That's my humanness getting in the way of something it doesn't need to be. So for
Correct.
me, it was just that radical, like, okay, yep, I hear what you're saying and I received the message, so much so that I had to like remind myself, like, this is it. Like, I will get another sign or another communication or another message if I'm missing the mark, if I'm misunderstanding it. And that's why I really do like sometimes to say things out loud, like back to myself, you know what I mean? So that we all on the same page. That's the way I think about it. So like if you show me something and I'm like, okay, cool, big red balloon, got it. Like, and they're like, the fuck, that wasn't it. What are you talking about? Like, they're gonna hit me again. They're gonna be like, well, bing, that wasn't it. And I'm gonna get overwhelmed and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna feel like that's not right. Like, right? And then you're gonna get what it actually is. Like, oh, fire truck, big red fire truck, got it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird shit like that. Like,
Yes.
I don't remember what your question is, but
You already answered it. You already answered it.
yeah. For me, that's what that looked like. But yeah. I
I'm just,
can't believe you just
I'm
did
just
3
laughing that you picked,
questions.
I'm just laughing that you picked Big Red Balloon
Why?
because I still had cards out from the read I did earlier.
That's so funny because when I tell you I don't say big red balloon, it's usually like blue ball. Like, that's what's funny.
And that's why I said it's the movement card, my enchanted map oracle. You know how much I be loving that deck.
That's funny.
It was
That's
just fun
funny.
because I'm like, shut up. And I just like flipped it over and I'm like, yeah, bottom card on the deck. There you go.
Dead. But that is it. That's the truth though. Okay, so I'm gonna do your questions and hopefully they're not all one big question.
Well, you just bridging into him so nice. I was like, yeah, we're just gonna keep going.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with the last question I had for you. So, how for you specifically do you tell Delulu from a real spiritual message or metaphor for you?
For me personally, me.
Yes, you personally, your experience with
So
both.
we're gonna go backwards to go forwards, but I used to call myself crazy all the time because I used to not want to believe what I would get. I didn't like what I would get, so I would actually tell myself that it was craziness and to ignore it. Now I have a rule, and my rule, as far as how I communicate, how I channel energy, my connection, don't bring it to me unless it affects me. I don't need to know if this has no effect on me. That's my rule. I don't need to know. When it comes to myself. Obviously, we read for other people and things like that, but for me that was my line in the sand because I think I had proven my intuition to myself enough in the capacity of like being a mom. Mother's intuition was never something I ever questioned. Never. Not from jump. I didn't care who talked crap at me. I didn't care who gaslit me. I didn't care when people called me crazy. I didn't care about any of that. But when it came to my own life, I was like, that's wild. I'm like, oh, you crazy bitch. Like, no. Like, you can't actually think that that's what's going on. And then that's why, as things developed, it's more or less I didn't want to believe. Does that make sense? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't want to believe some of the crazy shit I got. Because the thing is, the energy I was around or entertaining at that time, looking back, over the course of my life, I'm not surprised that's what's coming in. And the reason I say that is because that is the energy or the resonance that I was aligned with at that time. I'm not surprised I was getting like just, I don't want to say like foul energy, but like that fuck shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Seriously. If you're around people that you know are manipulative people, you gonna pick up on fuck shit energy.
Yep.
And the thing is, this is everything, right? Like, I'm talking like at this time, I'm gonna use a specific time in my life. Specific time. At a specific time, I was dealing with a doctor who was gaslighting me about bugs. I was dealing with a manipulative, condescending, unappreciative boss. I was dealing with family that was projecting their lack of accountability at me. And, other people in my life, same way. Well, I'm not surprised that that's the predominant energy I'm constantly picking up on. And I don't like
Right.
what I'm getting. I don't like that I'm being shown these things because I don't want to believe these things about people that I either have to interact with because it's a job, or people that I thought were my friends, or people that I thought were supposed to help me when it came to the medical care of my child, or when it comes to your family. You don't want those things to come to fruition. So I spent a lot of time being like, bitch, you crazy, bitch, you delusional, like, we just gonna ignore the clown behind the curtain because, like, you can't be serious. But then that's when I kind of like when I got serious with myself and I'm like, but why do you not gaslight yourself when it comes to your kids? Why do you trust your mother's intuition? Why are you categorizing, compartmentalizing your intuition? It's good enough here. You just don't like it here. There's a difference. You actually don't like when your mother's intuition's right either, Erin, because like most of the time it's not like good things that you are being forewarned of. It's when the wheels are about to fall off or when you about to go be in the hospital for like it wasn't good stuff there either, but I trusted. I trusted. I never wavered. I never this. I never backed down. So now, that's what I said. Now my line became, if it doesn't affect me, I don't need to know. Now that's a broad statement because that to me in my space also applies to if you my bestie, if you my family that I deal with, not family I don't talk to, not family that no. If it has to do with me directly, or I get something that somebody I know is probably going to confirm to me at some point in time, it has to be a direct connection. Otherwise, I don't need to know it. I don't need to be picking up on other people's drama, bullshit, baggage, wounds. Like, if it doesn't affect me, it's not my business. Because that's the thing. The second you attach to things that aren't yours, you're drawing it in. So if it has to do with me, discerning my life, this and that, if it doesn't affect me, I don't need to know. And if it doesn't make sense right now, because I too, like you, too smart for my own good sometimes. Too smart for my own good. And that logical brain gets going and it's like, ooh, I've been here before. Ooh, I recognize this. Ooh, why? Right? Like it like virtue signals that version of you that like taught you to pick up on this. And you're like, the last time I ignored this and I didn't know why it made sense, it made perfect sense. It may have taken a decade, but oh, did it make perfect sense? So that was it. That's how I did that. It made sense at some point. Some version of me needed to know this. This version, if it doesn't make sense to me, I don't need to dissect it right now. I just needed the awareness, and we're going to put a pin in it. Like in that Bolt movie where that guy's
And
always like, put a pin in it. I just put a pin in it. Thank you for the awareness, and I will get brought back to it if I need to. Every time.
And it's also really interesting because you're talking about the energy you're around and stuff like that. But I think for me, now I'm curious to see what you think, but I think for me, a lot of my intuition was working in like my survival category. So
Yeah.
when I first started, especially when I was getting weird things, like weird pings,
Yes.
it was always like a survival thing of being like something's wrong ping. Not like a, oh, this is a good message. Here's a
No,
clap on the back. Here's a
it was a
hurrah.
pin.
It's like it was
Yes.
always like something weird's about to happen or an accident or someone's going to get hurt or a car accident. Like, it was always something really weird. And like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like they were proven correct, or like, you know,
Unfortunately,
Spirit would bring surprises sometimes you know, I blame Spirit, but it could just be me picking up on shit. Like, but it's that idea of being like, things were just kind of odd. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, but I
But
do agree, because I think it's that nervous system thing,
that's
you
how it
know?
started. Yes. It was always like, I want to call it almost like a high alert. Like when it would come in, it was like high alert, okay, hypervigilance, right? Like, okay, assemble.
Yeah.
That's how it was. It was like the energy would come in, and then it's like scan for threats. What are you trying to tell me? Where do I need to protect myself? And I don't mean protect like, I mean actually protect. Like you said, a car accident, go a different direction. Somebody's having a health scare. Somebody, you know what I mean? Like, what do I need to spring
Oh
into
my
action?
God. Health scares. Yes.
God,
Oh,
like,
so much random information.
yes,
When I just think about like growing up, like so much random information that I just thought was my brain just doing things,
yes.
that like when you look back, you're like, oh my God. Like, or you would guilt trip yourself for, because why am I seeing a funeral? That's so crazy. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, someone's dead, and I'm seeing the same image with my real eyes, and I'm like, what? So that casket was, oh, like, you know what I mean? Just weird stuff like that you're like, oh. But I think that really does, because for me, when I think about that time period in my life, my nervous system was very much still in, now that I know, more of a fight or flight, more of a
Yes. Oh, I completely
survival
agree.
nervous system. So I'm not surprised that my abilities would curtail critique to what the brain deemed it needed, only
Yeah.
allowing information to come in and be received for certain
Yeah.
frequencies. Does that make sense? More than just like,
It's kind of like important because I think people don't realize, because I want to be careful saying the word like delulu, only from the stance of depending upon what energy you resonate with and you align with, that's very real to you. If you resonate with fear and you always afraid of everything and you think people's out to get you and all of this shit, that's what you're going to pick up on. That's what you resonate with. Bottom line, that's what you resonate with. Because like I can sit here and channel something and it not come across. I mean, at least in my perspective, the way I channel the energy, it's not being fear mongering. It's being like, yes, you have this awareness. Yes, people are doing this. Yes, let them do it. Yes, quiet confidence. Yes, don't get in the way while people are, you know what I mean? Like doing what they're doing. Stop inserting yourself in it. It's not meant to be like, oh, see, my fears were confirmed. You'll confirm your fear every time because you're drawing it in. It's what you resonate with. You will draw it in every time. But if you're on it, you know what I mean? If you tune into something else, if you're tuning into that higher level of things, then you're going to start tuning into and drawing into those blessings, the things you call miracles, the things you call your manifestations coming to life, or you manifest in your fear. Like, it's just that simple. What you are tuned into is the predominant energy that you're going to channel. How that comes in, that's the filter you're using. So, like you said, when you're in fight or flight, there is still a lot of fear there present. Fear of safety, fear of security, fear of how you're received, fear of how other people think about you or see you. So that's the thing. It's not necessarily the fear of like, oh my God, I'm scared something's physically going to happen to me. It's all those fears. It's still the energy of fear. That's why you
yeah,
channel what you do. And that's why you're paranoid, right? Because you're paranoid of fear, of what you're afraid of it materializing. And then when it does, you go, see, I was right. Did you manifest it? Or what was it? Like, that's for people to discern on their own. I'm not here to tell anybody nothing. But that's the thing. Did you actually like, was it a premonition?
yeah.
Or did you manifest it? Because you keep telling yourself the same story over and over again, that everybody's out to get you and this and this. Like at some point, then what happens is it your intuition or is your confirmational bias?
Oh,
Now,
so I have a question for you.
yeah.
This is a different question, but it was just the way you said that last line. So what's one thing that you used to blame others for that you actually realized was your fault or in your control or your responsibility when it comes to your healing journey?
Ho ho. Unpopular opinion. However, it shall set you free. Nobody is, oh, no, people ain't gonna like me for this one. Nobody can make you feel anything. I used to say, well, my mom made me feel like this, or so and so made me feel like this. Nope, that's a whole ass lie. And you can keep lying to yourself and saying people make you feel a certain type of way, and all you are doing is avoiding accountability for the way you received, filtered, and processed that energy. Whether it's a conversation, whether it's body language, whether it's, you know what I'm saying, whatever. You filtered it, you perceived it, and you gave it meaning. Nobody makes you feel anything.
I have
But
a thought that, like, anytime that you take something to the chest, you're not only taking it too personal, but there's a part of you that believes it to be true about yourself. And I think that that's where that
yes,
guilt, self-blaming comes from. And then
correct,
what happens is we amplify we not only claim the energy that somebody threw at us, but we also amplify it.
correct.
And if you never release it, well, then of course somebody made you feel bad. But actuality, like you just said, you grabbed onto what they threw in the air at you. Like, you know what I mean?
Not only that, but like even with boundaries. Ugh. Like holy, I don't even have the word for it, but like
You have
holy,
a whole relationship with
holy
boundaries.
crap. But I mean, like when I say this, people got boundaries so fucking twisted that like sit down. Sit down. First of all. Your boundaries are for you. And I'm going to tell you this. Your boundaries will ease up when you stop entertaining shit you're not supposed to entertain. You need the boundaries because you can't control yourself. You need the boundaries because you keep going around it. You need the boundaries because you keep giving people access to you. But people still in their, I don't even know. I'm not even going to give it a label today because I'm just not doing that. But when people are like, well, boundaries, like they don't get access to me. Okay, great. Why were you giving them access to you in the first place?
Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website www.childofbalance.com. For those of you who truly appreciate handmade products, we have a handmade shop. Everything is made to order, blessed, saged, and sent out as quick as possible. We have anything from handmade sounds for meditation to herbal blends like bath teas and dump and go specials to road opener mixes to kits and oils and so much more. For those of you who enjoy taking spiritual classes and courses but maybe can't fit it into your busy schedule, we have self-study courses, and everything can be found in the handmade shop. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
Like, you know where they think it's that flex, where it's like you're gonna make people adhere to your boundaries? Newsflash, you control nobody.
But
Newsflash,
that's the biggest sign of ego to me,
yes.
is somebody using boundaries as a flex, because
They like it.
really, and no one's gonna like this, but like I need people to see this, or I'm offering people the option to see this from a fucked up perspective of being like, we are celebrating your inability to cope with daily life without those boundaries.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Now you think it's a flex. You think it's a flex to avoid accountability for where you can't control your own energy, where you can't control your reactions, where you don't own your triggers. You now say, oh, these are my boundaries and you have to agree to my boundaries. No, they don't. That is an expectation you are placing on somebody. And the only person, so I said, your boundaries are yours. And it's very simple. I'll give people a completely like just simple thing. If you say somebody doesn't have access to you and they call your phone, they have access to you, right? They have access to you. Your boundary is you don't have to answer your phone. Your boundary is you don't have to respond to a text message. If people show up at your house, you don't have to answer your door. You don't have to this. I'll give my own examples. Like when we're working, you know this. I tell my family, like, I'm not returning phone calls. I'm not responding to text messages unless it's an emergency, right? Like, but they still call my phone. They call my phone. They
I
text
was,
me.
I was just thinking to myself silently, it's never an emergency.
Don't show up at my house. Like, this has always been a boundary. Like, please do not show up at my house unannounced unless it's an emergency. Period. Exclamation point. So I have a family member who knows that I work, who knows that I, do school with my kids every morning, and they somehow think the boundary of not coming all the way to the door and leaving things on the driveway, then sending a text and telling me they left it on the driveway is somehow respecting boundaries. But my point being is, I have no control over that. I have zero. None.
Well, that's what's really interesting when it just comes to boundaries is that so much, I'm gonna call it fake news, but so much fake news about boundaries is the idea of if you control others, you have good boundaries. You can't do this, and
Correct.
you can't. I don't agree with you doing that. Nobody has to agree with how you whatever you want in life, no matter what it is, and you can't control others. I don't know why placing like I don't know why announcing boundaries feels like more control for people, and that's really the thing that they're struggling
You
with.
shouldn't have to announce your boundaries because they're yours. Who
No,
are
they're
you?
silent. They're for you. They're just like I think the way that you said it one time, it just made so much sense to me personally, was the idea of like this is just what you can live with is your
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yes.
What do you need to feel good, to exist, to not get overwhelmed, to that's
Right.
your boundary. What
Yes.
bothers you, but it's not about controlling the other person. It's about controlling your reactions and your choices that are going to optimize your ability to live correctly how you want to. Like,
Yes.
it has nothing to do with the outside people. So I think that's so interesting that you brought up boundaries because that's one thing that'll forever be taught wrong.
Yes.
Forever
Boundaries
be
are
taught wrong.
something you announce. They're not for other people. They are for you. But that's the thing. Even I got that twisted once upon a time. And that's why I said, and you have to know the difference. Like you said, I always say that. I do. Boundaries are what you can live with. And what you can live with today might not be what you can live with tomorrow. It might not be with what you can live with an hour. And that's okay. You're allowed to change them because they're yours. They're
Yep.
yours. They're malleable. Sometimes they're not even necessary. You don't need them all the time. That's why I said you need those, like, and I'm gonna call them toxic boundaries. You need those like more toxic boundaries, those not rigid, those super rigid boundaries, those I gotta show these people and flex my shit boundaries. When you can't control yourself, when you can't control your reaction, when you can't take accountability for your own energy, and when you're still triggered, when you're still avoiding the truth, when you're still avoiding looking in the mirror, when you're still avoiding that radical acceptance and responsibility that you control your own energy and nobody else does but you, that's when you kind of shift into that, I gotta flex my boundaries and make them known and scream them from a megaphone. No, you don't, because the only person who needs to understand them is you.
So the next question is how do you deal with people bringing your past back and throwing it in your face? Because I feel like that's something that we get asked a lot is, well, this, or we get told a lot, especially in private sessions.
Okay, people aren't gonna like me for this one today either. If you are bothered by people bringing your past up and throwing it back in your face, that's because a piece of you is still ashamed of what you. Part of you still hasn't accepted that version of you, and they trigger that in you, and that's not their problem, it's yours. Because when you truly don't care, and I mean, as I'm saying this from experience, I have had people throw versions of me in my face so many times. I legitimately don't care. I did what I did. And you know what? Once upon a time, yeah, I was ashamed. I was this. I wished I wouldn't have. But you know what? I would not be who I am right now. I would not have the experience. I would not have the wisdom that came from the rock bottoms, that came from the quote unquote other people's idea of poor decisions, or that I wouldn't be who I am. And that's the thing. You can walk around, and this is the problem I had. I used to walk around thinking that you have to carry consequences for the rest of your life. They're your shitty badge of honor. They're your scarlet letter. They're all these things. And they're not. You did what you did. You are not that person anymore. And unless you still resonate on that level some bit and you are masked up right now, that's why you offended. You're offended because you're still wearing a mask. So that's the thing. People bringing up past versions of you when you don't resonate with that version of you anymore shouldn't bother you. It should not bother you. And if it bothers you, you need to ask yourself why. Because they, although it's probably rude, and I'm saying that, like, let me acknowledge and hold that space for you for a minute. I get that it's not nice for people to do that. They being not nice on purpose. Hello? Like, they didn't bring your past back up to be nice and be friends. They weaponize it. So, one, why the fuck are you around people like that? Ask yourself that first of all. That's first and foremost. Why are we even associating with that? Number two, what part of that still triggers you? Because they are showing you something within you that you still aren't fully okay with.
And you don't need to match energy either.
No. Oh my
I
God.
can't tell you how many people will then retaliate
Yes.
because they got triggered. Let's be honest, because they got triggered, and
But what does it do?
they retaliate with, well, your past wasn't pretty either, because blah, 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 and then all of a sudden now we're just throwing people's past in each other's faces, and you're like, I'd rather have you radically own your past. Be like,
Yes.
you're damn right I did that, and I'm better for it. You're damn right I did that. Like, yep, but I'm here now, and I'm doing something different. Like,
But you also have to think about, like, and this is where I got with myself. If you trying so hard to dig up my past and get a reaction out of me, that's because the current version of me isn't something that you can control. It's not something you can handle. You are bothered that I am unbothered. So you have to go back in time and find some insecure version of me, some version of me that operated as broken, who was, destroying themselves, and resurrect her up because somehow it makes you feel better about yourself. Stop it.
can I
Stop.
tell you? Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Nothing irks me more because I've watched it happen. I've watched it happen with people I used to be friends with. I watched it happen in public. I just straight diabolical. Nothing irks me more than when someone gets triggered and then they start spiritually psychoanalyzing / like jabbing people with their healing. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Like,
Yes.
just the same thing that you said about, like, people don't have control. I can't tell you how many people fire back with, you're just mad because you don't have control over, and you're just like, shut up, because now you're equally as disgusting as that person. Like, just, like, to where they try to get their little, like, manipulative, like, you are still throwing something that you think is demeaning or rude
Yeah.
or negative about the other person in their face. It doesn't matter because you wrapped it in spiritual terminology and healing words. It doesn't matter. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've been like, that's just your abandonment talking. That's your code. Shut up. Shut up. Nobody asked you to psychoanalyze anybody. Nobody asked you for your opinion.
If you got to defend a past version of you, you need to go sit with that version of you.
Like, you know what I'm saying though? Like, when people they retaliate, but they
Yes.
think because they're coming from a thing, or, well, I rationalize what's happening. So that's great. Rationalize it internally and shut your face. Like, it's wild to me how many people will turn around and weaponize those terms, weaponize the spiritual healing, and like use it as a sword. And you're like, it's not meant to be fought with. It's not meant to be fought with.
That's how you know, and I'm sorry, like I'll say it, that's how you know where people really resonate. If they have to weaponize spiritual terms, shadow work, this or that, if they have to idolize other people, this and that, like, no. Because the thing is, your journey, your understanding of things, it only needs to be on a you level. You need to understand you. You are only guaranteed to ever find more of yourself in everything. Every relationship, every experience, everything that you do, you are going to find more of you every single time. So what you understand about your experience doesn't need understood by other people. That's why it like takes me full circle all the way back to what was my favorite curse that I broke. I don't need external validation. I don't need anybody to understand. And that was where I used to scream the loudest. I need you to understand me, because if you don't understand me, I'm crazy, or I'm this, or I'm all these things. I'm not any of that. I'm not any of that. I just needed to understand me, and to understand me meant stop defending all this shit that isn't even happening anymore.
Did that go hand in hand? Because I feel like that's the last question I have is like, when did you stop making yourself smaller for others?
I think I'll be really honest. I don't think I fully stopped making myself smaller. Maybe just in the last year or so. I still used to shrink myself in certain situations for the sake of keeping the peace. Not because I was afraid to take up space, not because I couldn't operate my wholeness, but for the sake of keeping the peace.
Keeping outward peace is a fallacy. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Keeping outward peace is a fallacy because you have to place that disruption somewhere. And if it's not outside of you, then it's inside of you.
It's inside of you. That's exactly where I was going to take that. It is inside of you. And the thing is, if you're going somewhere that you have to shrink yourself, this is where it clicked for me. If I keep going places that I have to keep the peace, I shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, it's a misalignment.
It's that simple. And the thing is, but what does it always go back to? And I always say that. But sometimes you will find yourself in situations that you consciously know that you have a misalignment in because there are other people or parties involved and you are doing what you can live with. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yep. And sometimes, as much as it hurts, guys, sometimes the best thing that you can do for people is not stick around, but allow your absence to be felt. Because sometimes you overcompensate, you do too much, you run yourself ragged, you insert so much of your energy that you not only are affected by it because you're pouring so much of yourself into something, so much of your energy that you're not filling your own cup, but you're also allowing them no space to actually have to do some things for themselves emotionally, energetically, like any of the, even sometimes physically, depending on the situation. So sometimes when you remove, or even just not even remove fully, but sometimes you just pull yourself back a little bit and you start refocusing, it not only creates space where people can choose to use that space how they need to in the moment, but it gives sometimes, a little bit of a, I hate to say lesson because I feel like people weaponize it and they do it on purpose to be harmful, and I hate that. But it's one of those things where it's just like, it's that type of it allows people to stand up on their own 2 feet, and then they get to make their own decisions. Do I do something different? Am I cool doing what I always did? It gives more opportunity for others to wield their energy differently.
Yes. 1000% yes.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of story time with some Q&A. We were intending to go back and forth, but then, Spirit had other plans, so it is what it is. But I hope that this helps.
No, I'm just kidding. She's flowing and bridging, and I'm like, I can't let her stop because you're just flowing into all of it. Like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay, well, here we go. So, we're not going to stop.
But I hope that this helps somebody else out there, and we'll see you next week. All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Spiritual Roundtable with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And we hope to see you next week for another seat at the roundtable. For anyone else interested in other social medias, the Free Tree of Knowledge, private services, local events, and much more, check out our website, www.childofbalance.com. Until next time, please remember you are to feel your way through everything. Do not stop, do not make yourself smaller, and always continue to be unapologetically and authentically you, because the world needs more of that.